Here we go. Shavous is mamish upon us, and I'm reading now from the Torah. The Torah says, "B'chodesh hashlishi l'tzeis b'nei Yisrael meretz Mitzrayim." And it was in the third month when Klal Yisrael came out of Mitzrayim. B'yoyim hazeh bo midbar Sinai. We came to the desert of Sinai in the third month. Of course, that is Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the first day of Nisan. That was yesterday. So now we're encamped at the mountain. And we encamped at the mountain. And we encamped there. Vayichan is plural or singular? Vayichan. Singular. If it was plural, it would have said Vayachanu. And they were there. Single. And Rashi famously says, "Vayichan sham be'ish echad, ke'ish echad b'lev echad," like one man with one heart. That the prerequisite to receiving the Torah, which is coming up in a couple days, was Jewish unity. There needed to be a unified people to receive the Torah, because God is one. God's oneness is a oneness that doesn't bond, that doesn't become intimate with many. How can you be intimate with the one if you're many? You need to be similar to the one. So when Klal Yisrael became one, when we unified emotionally, spiritually, in a loving manner, we bonded together as one, and the oneness of us could now become intimate with the oneness of God. That was the prerequisite, that oneness. And then Moshe Rabbeinu Ola El Ho'elikim V'yikra Elav Hashem Enahar Leimar Koisam El Beis Yaakov V'saged L'Bnei Yisrael. And then it says, you've seen, which is also one of the powerful proofs of the Torah. Atem re'isam asher asisi l'Mitzrayim. You saw what I did in Mitzrayim. You saw the plagues. So, how would you make this up if it was a lie? If this was a lie, how would people accept the book that says, and you all saw this? If it didn't happen, you know what you would say, Mark? You would say, yeah, Moses just told us that we saw 10. You saw that, bro? Hey, Andrew, did you see that? Did you saw, these plagues that Moses described in the book that he's saying, then take this book. And it says that we saw this. If we didn't see it, would we take this book? No, it's very, very solid proof inside the text that what we saw, yes, happened.
The Torah is a difficult stuff if you don't actually have God in the picture, right? So because it has a bunch of weird stuff that you can't believe is true unless you've been there to see it.
So let's say we even theoretically could take God out. Even just thinking in logic. How would this story start? It's a very important point that people get. Many of the Chassidim, we don't go into this because in the minhag of saying to be we know, we see people like Itchy Meyer, that's enough to know the Messiah is true. If you know what I'm saying. This is as real as it authentic as it gets. But many in our generation want to hear a bit of just the kind of rational, logical points here. And this is so strong. If we never saw it, how would we be, and that it never happened, how would we be still telling the story that it happened? Something very compelling to think about. And the person that says, yeah, but you never know, the cynical person, not skeptical, but cynical, but you know, anything. So I always say the same thing to that person. Have you ever crossed a bridge in your entire life? Like the George Washington Bridge, the Golden State Bridge. Have you ever crossed a bridge, Mayor? Yeah. Has a bridge ever collapsed in the history of the world? Yeah, and it's very tragic. So why did you cross the bridge? You don't know. Maybe, statistically, it could be that it might collapse. Mark, you ever been to a car before?
Sure.
Have cars ever, God forbid, lo aleinu, crashed?
All the time.
Yeah, even much more than bridges. Why do you go into cars? Because statistically it's not going to, and that I live with the data that says that I'm going to be okay on this trip. Has somebody ever been jumped and mugged leaving their front door? Sadly, yes. People are. So why did you leave your house today? I mean, you don't know, man. You don't know. It could be. The answer is because we don't live our life that way. We live our life with there's a 99.99% chance or data that's saying that I'm going to have a good day. It's going to be fine. The bridge is going to stay. And we don't think, oh, but you never, who knows? You're telling me that it's so improbable that the Torah was made up, because how could they have started such a lie if it was in fact a lie? And therefore it must be that it's actually true. But you, how do you know? For sure. Maybe it was one giant mushroom trip. Maybe. So what do we say to that? We say, 2 people that take psychedelics don't have the same experience, let alone 3 million. And they all describe the exact same thing. And furthermore, if you could replicate it naturally, why did no other nation try to replicate it? Unless it actually happened. And you can't replicate it. So the skeptical guy, not the skeptical, the cynical guy, but you never, yeah, you never know about the bridge collapsing, but you still cross it. So we live with logic. We take evidence and move forward with it. It's very powerful verses to read. Very powerful. Just go into the Sinai experience. See, Meyer spoke a lot about this. Just read these psukim. You don't even need to read them all, but just read some of the psukim and just allow these verses to talk to you. Very strong verses that surround the giving of the Torah. Okay? I want to just read a little bit. This would take us a very long time. We only have a few minutes. But everybody has to see the Gemara in Shabbos Peiches. The Gemara in Shabbos Peiches, Amid Beis, which describes the experience of Moshe Rabbeinu going up to get the Torah. Okay, so he explains like this. Omer Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, B'shar sha'ala Moshe l'maroim, when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the heavens, Amru malachei ashoreis lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the ministering angels said to Hashem, Ribono shel olam, Mali yalud isha beineinu, what is this man of flesh and blood doing amongst us? Amalahem lekabel Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu came to receive the Torah. This is God talking to the angels as a response that Moshe Rabbeinu was coming to receive the Torah. Ba amru lefonav Chamuda genuze shegenuze lachat teisha miyos v'shivim va'arba dairis kodim shenivra olam. This very, very special gift from 974 years before the creation of the world. The Torah existed before the creation of the world. How was the world created? Through the Torah. There's so many people that don't know this yet. There's so many people. I was listening to a certain philosophy recently that it's sad. It's very sad that we, of course, don't have a soul, or maybe we were birthed out of, the earth, or maybe another philosophy. I heard a mushroom philosophy that the mushrooms created us. By otherwise good, very nice scientists who have good ideas. So like the mushrooms are God. Mushrooms are very medicinal, but not God. I mean, God is one. Mushrooms are many. And even though, yes, the mycelium that goes under the ground is an amazing network that links everything together. And we need to learn a lot from the mushroom kingdom, which is a miraculous kingdom. we don't say that, it's God. God is one. And God's oneness created the Torah, and then the whole world is created through the Torah. The Torah is God's thoughts. So now, back into us. This the thoughts of God, the Torah, the thoughts of God. The most intimate thing of a person is their thoughts. It's so deep, it's so personal. God's thoughts, kaviyachol. You want to give this to human beings? You want to give this to Basar V'Dam? Leave the Torah with us here in Shemayim. Ma enoish ketizkarenu ben adam ketifkadenu Hashem Adonai ma adir shemcha b'chol haaretz asher tana hoitcha ala Shemayim. These humans, they're lowly. We're angelic. Don't give it to people that need to go to the bathroom. That was one of the ways that Pharaoh tried to show that he was not mortal, that he was in fact a god, is he would hide himself when he had to go defecate. He would go very early in the morning to the Nile and pretend that he was, getting a stretch, doing some morning exercises, until Moshe Rabbeinu catches him there one morning, using the facilities. And he was quite surprised to see Moshe, because all of Egypt didn't know that he actually had to use the bathroom. So the angels say, why would you give the Torah, the most intimate element of creation, to Basar V'Dam? Moshe, answer them. The angels are making a good point. I'm afraid, God, that they're going to burn me with the fire coming out of their mouths. Of course, this is all allegorical. And one thing you see, which is so interesting, that Moshe Rabbeinu, everything about him was just direct, talk to God. God, I'm afraid. And Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say, God, I got this one, no problem. He said, God, I'm actually afraid. Part of us as Yidden is that we turn to God for everything. If you're afraid, tell Hashem. If you're struggling with something, tell Hashem. You might say, Moshe Rabbeinu. Tell Hashem. If Moshe Rabbeinu could tell God, I'm afraid, then what do the tzaddikim, Itchimah, what do their hisbodedus look like? What does it look like in those secret moments when they're talking to Hashem? I'm afraid for the state of humanity, Hashem. I'm afraid, help. So I'm Aleichem. So what does Hashem say back? Echos b'kisei kavoidi v'chaz alehem tshuva. Grab onto my throne of glory. Moshe Rabbeinu was given an opportunity that Hashem said, hold on, nothing physical. Hold on, feel safe with me. And now answer them. God doesn't answer on Moshe Rabbeinu's behalf. He says, you can answer them. Shneimar mechaz b'nei kisei parshas alav ananu. Amar Rab Nachum alamet shapir shakai miziv shchinosei. Ve'ananu alav. Amar lefonav Ribono shel olam. And now Moshe is responding why he deserves the Torah, should be given to Klal Yisrael. Torah shata noisen li maksiv ba. The Torah that you're about to give to me, what does it say in it? Anochi Hashem Aleikecha. I am the Lord your God. Asher would say, Sichem eretz Mitzrayim. Amar lahem leMitzrayim yoradatem lepara hishtabtem. You angels, did you ever go down and become slaves to Par Mitzrayim? Torah lama teheh lachem. What is this relevant to you? Shuv maksiv ba lo yeh lecha Elohim acharim al panai. Don't have any other gods. Bein amim atem shruyim she'odim avodah zarah. You angels, you live amongst the nations of the world, the idol-worshipping nations, that you need to have a Torah that guides you back out of paganism. Shuv maksiv ba zocher yisrael Shabbos the Kodshay. Remember Shabbos the Kodshay. Klum atem oisim malacha. You do malacha. Shetem tzrichen Shavous. Shuv maksiv ba loy tisa masa matan yesh beinechem. Masa matan yesh beinechem. Do not be jealous. Do not covet what you guys do business. Moshe Rabbeinu just saying over and over, honor your parents. Do you angels have parents that you need to honor? Do you have parents that maybe did things that aren't so nice to you? There's a certain guy I'm talking to now. He's very not on good terms with his parents. I said, it's not okay. I said, but do you know? And he was telling me all the not nice things. It's true that his parents are involved in. But I said, they brought you into the world. You wouldn't be here without them. And the Torah says, just for that, it's not a just. For that, you owe them a lifetime's worth of thanks. A lifetime, because you wouldn't have a life. You owe the entire life of just giving back to them. And it goes on and on and on. And then finally the Aleichem say, okay, you're right, give the Torah. And they all gave gifts to Moshe Rabbeinu. Even the angel of death gave a gift. You know what the angel of death's gift was? The Torahs. The very thing that could stop death. The incense offering. The secret of reading the Torahs. That's why we make a big deal. We have it from a klaf. The secret of the Torahs, to end the pandemic, to end everything, is all from the incense, from the Torahs. So one takeaway. There's a simple question like, the Malachim knew what it said in the Torah. What exactly were they thinking? Give us the Torah. Moshe says, let's just open it up and see that it doesn't seem to talk about you. It talks about us. Okay, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're right. What was their kavanah? The answer is, the angels said, we know the Torah exists on very, very exalted levels, much higher than the letters on the page down here. The Torah exists as it gets closer and closer to its primal form, as God's thoughts. We want the Torah the way that it looks like in the higher worlds, the more refined, the more sublime worlds. So they're making a good point. They had a point. What was the response? The greatest and most beautiful expression of Torah is when we, Klal Yisrael, and ultimately for all of humanity, can bring the Torah all the way down to this world, into a world where God is not seen, into a world where there are people that would otherwise, yes, cheat in business, but the Torah says do not cheat in business. In a world where a person would want to run away from his obligations to honor his parents. But he says that I need to develop the qualities inside of me that honors my father and my mother. That is the ultimate place of the Torah. So let's, Mirza Hashem, remember this Shavous, that the Torah is coming all the way down for you and I. Read the Psukim in Parshas Yisrael. Know that the power of this Torah is so logical, so powerful, and it's for us down in this world, to elevate this world, b'siyat d'shmaya. We should be zoyach the Kabbalas HaTorah, the Yom Chasanasai, Zu Kabbalas HaTorah, the Yom Simchas Libay, should be zoyach the Mashiach Tzidkein b'mher v'yameinu. Amen. Have a wonderful day. Called a good Yom Tov.